Hello buddy and welcome, I'm Comodin Cam and today we're going to be ranking every Hound design from worst to best.
Oh yeah! Hell yeah! He's back! He's alive!
Comodin Cam.
He's here!
Now Hound is a well-known character in the Transformers lore, and despite his design at the beginning being fairly consistent, in recent times he's had a radical change which is going to make this very interesting to look at.
I'm like a fat ballerina that takes scalps and slits throats.
So without further ado, let's dive straight into the tier names, and first up we have a quote from the last night.
The Hound's in town. Love starting the day off with a gunfight. Sorry I'm late. My invitation to this ass kicking must have got lost in the mail.
Second is a quote from Generation 1.
See if you can locate the Decepticons.
Just turn me loose, Prime. I'll sniff them out.
Now for the middle tier, where I kind of like it but then I don't at the same time.
Easy, let's use words.
What's in it for you is I don't kill you.
And now for the fourth tier.
I gotta hurt you now. You're just too disturbing to live. Take that, bitch. Oh, you're dead.
Now for the worst Hound design, it of course had to be...
Come and get some! You're all gonna die!
In the beginning, we had Generation 1 Hound, both the original toy and the cartoon model, and they really didn't change all that much. Both translate really well with each other. Yes, the Hound toy is just a block, but heck, I think it's charming, and it got a reissue recently as well, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've always liked Hound being a Jeep, and the fact that he was one of the main first characters of the show to have a lot of screen time, you know, that first few episodes, it was all devoted to him really, him and Clefjumper. But regardless, it's a shame that Hound didn't really get any more screen time after the first few episodes. The only thing I don't really like about this design is really the shoulder area. You know, there's not really so much bulk on those shoulders as I would like. Of course, that's been sort of rectified over the years, but still, that's kind of the one thing about Hound that I don't like, but I understand at the same time why it makes his design silhouette so iconic. But then again, I complain about the shoulders, yet I am absolutely in love with the masterpiece toy that they did. This is incredible. This is the reason, really, that I want to collect all of the Generation 1 masterpieces. It just looks so stunning in the design. It's so accurate to the cartoon model. It's really incredible. But then again, I've not seen anything more sought after than the buzzworthy Bumblebee Hound, which unfortunately was cancelled. Reportedly, Target opted to cancel their release of Hound due to poor sales of the previous 2022 assortment. So instead they released him in a 5-pack in the Legacy United series. I already have 86 jars, but I don't mind buying it again just for the sake of having all of these guys together. Looks really cool, and I'm glad that eventually this figure got released. The only design I don't like from the Generation 1 era is his Marvel Comics design. It just looks really bland and boring, and you know, I don't really like the combination of blue and green on that particular design. While I do like the original Generation 1 design, and I would definitely put it in the high tier, it's just that I think there have been other designs that have improved upon this just so much more. But regardless, he'll still sniff them out. While we're on the topic of Generation 1 Hound, we'll talk about some other toys based on it. For example, the Creos. It's basic, it looks really nice. The Constructor Bots, however, I'm not vibing with. I've never really vibed all that much with a majority of the Constructor Bots line, but you know, the Hound one, it's just not doing it for me. Talking about other mini versions of the Generation 1 Hound, we have Bot Shots, Q, and the alt modes. Dude looks like he's just seen something really disgusting. The only one I like out of these is the Q1, the rest of them, they're all gonna die. Oh, and he was also turned into a bouncing ball. He looks like he wants to die. Now, Hound was also in the Commodore 64 Battle to Save the Earth computer game, and I gotta say, dude's had better days. Yeah, like those graphics are never gonna have any charm to them. When it comes to Generation 2, there were some toys of Hound. He had this GoBots, which kind of closely resembled his Jeep mode and a more traditional colour scheme. But then he had this Sergeant Hound all-white version, which was cancelled. I can't say I'm surprised that it was cancelled, to be fair. I'm not vibing with any of these really, but at least the GoBots one made an attempt. Now, for those who may not be aware, Hound's model made a brief appearance in the Transformers Armada cartoon. These were the scenes on Cybertron, and a lot of other cartoon models from Generation 1 were used, so think of this as more as just like a little cameo, not like a direct appearance or anything. He actually looks like a Decepticon in this shot here. Looks like he's wearing the Decepticon logo. But still, regardless, there's not really much to say about it. Like I said, it's just the G1 model in an Armada cartoon. But that's not all from the Unicron trilogy, as Hound was an Autobot Minicon in Energon. He was partnered up with Treadbot. So yeah, Hound became a Minicon. There's not really anything to say, this is just a redeco of Rollbar. With Hound being a Jeep, it was perfect for him to be a part of the Alternators line. Which I gotta say, this is pretty accurate to how he was back in Generation 1, so I guess at the time, you could look at this as sort of like the first somewhat masterpiece version of him. This was released in 2004 as well, and yeah, this is Hound coming back in toy form in a really good way, I gotta say. Now, he would get another toy in the Transformers Universe line, which is something I was always after as a kid. I always wanted this. I wanted a lot of the Universe toys, like Prowl, etc., and this one was one of them as well. And one day, if I see it, maybe if I'm going around TFCon or TF Nation, if I see it around, I'll probably buy it, because I've always had a soft spot for this design. It's definitely a good upgrade from the original Generation 1 Hound. And heck, you know what? I'm actually going to put that in the top tier, because I'm still after that figure, after all these years. Now, there is concept art of an early version of Universe Hound, and I gotta say, I actually really do dig this. I can see what they're going for here. You know, I love the bulky arms and the bulky legs, but then it's mixed in with the thin torso, and the shoulders are so broad. There is something about this that's actually pretty cool. It's almost anime sort of looking. It's a shame we didn't get to see this, but overall I'm happy with what we ended up with. Now we have Combiner Wars Hound, which is a heavy retool of Swindle from Combiner Wars. And I gotta say, I think it looks better on Hound than Swindle. I'm not hating this 100%. Yes, it's a retool, but I think it's a pretty good retool. You know, as you may be familiar with, I'm not the biggest fan of the Combiner Wars designs. There's a lot of it that I just think was so bleh. I think the style of Combiner Wars kind of works with this Hound. While we're on the topic, we'll talk about the Earth Wars, which is somewhat the same as Combiner Wars. They made a few changes where his wheels went on the front instead of on the shoulders. I think it's pretty cool. I kinda like it, but then I don't at the same time. Now let's talk about the Earth Wars G.I. Joe version, which is slightly different in many ways, just a bit more bulkier. And you know what, I'm surprised that Hound hasn't crossed over more with G.I. Joe lore, considering he's a Jeep. I do like this design. If you just go rid of the G.I. Joe logos, I think it'd be pretty clean of a design. Now let's move on to comic books, and we'll briefly talk about War Within Hound. He wasn't in it all that much. We get a good look at his robot mode and vehicle mode, but there's no model sheet available. I kinda like the vehicle mode just a little bit more. His robot mode looks more like Trailbreaker and Hoist. Yeah, not much to say about this really. Now let's talk about the main IDW design of Hound, and I gotta say, I really do like this. This was what I was talking about when it comes to the G1 Hound. I just wanted that little update to make him look a little bit cooler, and the shoulders definitely look 10 times cooler in my opinion. I like everything about this, the bulkiness and the vehicle mode as well. Of course it's Cybertronian, so we've got a very interesting Cybertronian mode compared to the Jeep. And I think it's refreshing of a vehicle mode design, to be fair. You know, it's also like, it's like a freewheeler, but backwards. Arguably, I think this is better than the Fall of Cybertron vehicle mode. Now, a design that goes really hard is the Hearts of Steel Hound. And it's a shame what he transforms into, because that is not quite as badass as his robot mode. I really do dig this a lot. And it's just so layered and so cool looking. The design of his chest is so badass. It's a shame he transforms into that small little cart. But regardless, the robot mode, in my opinion, is superior. So he's definitely going up there as one of my favorites. Now, there isn't all that much to say about how he looked in the Robots in Disguise issue 25 comic, and the chest design is fairly new compared to the previous IDW design. I like it, but it doesn't really seem to be all too much going off. The only thing that looks really cool is his chest design, but everything else is just, pretty generic, pretty much what we're familiar with. Now, BotCon did bring back the Generation 2 Sergeant Hound with a brand new figure, and I gotta say, it looks really cool. The fact that that cancelled toy got some sort of resurgence, but I gotta say, I'm just not vibing with it, sorry. I just think it's too disturbing to live, so I'm sorry. Now let's talk about the evil Autobot Hound from Shattered Glass. This is basically just G1 Hound, but with evil colours now. And I gotta say, I really do like the purple actually. It really does blend well with the sort of darker green, with the sort of orangey brown. I actually do really kind of dig this. Looks really, really cool for an evil Hound. As a kid, I was always surprised that Hound didn't make an appearance in the Transformers animated cartoon. He did get a head in the Allspark Almanac, designed by Bill Foster. I gotta say, the head actually looks pretty cool. I've seen a lot of fan art put this head on various designs, and yeah, it's just a shame that a cool looking head design like this, one of the cool looking head designs that he actually did for that Almanac, actually didn't make its way into the show. But it's just a head, so... Now let's move on to the live action movies, and surprisingly, it doesn't start with Age of Extinction Hound. He actually appeared in the 2007 PSP tie-in game. Yeah, he's a Jeep, but, you know, if he was to appear in a movie, I would actually expect him to look very similar to this, to be fair. And I gotta say, I don't really vibe with it all that well. I know a lot of people seem to really like this design because it's heavily inspired by Generation 1. The head design just looks kind of Optimus Prime-ish. I know he sacrifices himself in the game or something. I'm not really too familiar with the story, but I do know that. I do like the shoulder, and I think the chest is quite interesting as well, but I just gotta say, I'm just not vibing with this. I think he's just too disturbing to live, and well, he did die in the game, so take that, bitch. Now talking about Movie Hound. Okay, this guy, there's a lot to discuss when it comes to this character. Despite looking fat, he's not really fat, it's just all his gear.
It's like somebody packed 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound sack.
No, he's a chunky Autobot.
Ow! You wanna stop that?
I gotta say, I did enjoy him in Age of Extinction, even if I found his jokes really lame.
We're the pathetic, dirty foursome, and you make 5.
And the character overall a bit obnoxious towards the end. He is basically nothing like G1 Hound, which, you know, it's not a necessity, but he's got the physicality of Autobot Bulkhead, who was also popular at the time, of course, with Transformers Animated in 2007, and then, of course, as Bulkhead in Transformers Prime in 2010. So it's kind of an interesting decision not to just name him Bulkhead. I guess the personality is just too far different from Animated and Prime, what they did with him. So I guess they just didn't want to make this Bulkhead an arsehole, if that's a way to just put it. So, let's just give him the name Hound, because he is also green. So yeah, I mean, I do like this design. It definitely brings a lot more personality to the Autobot cast. He was one of the few characters in the movie that I really liked the design of, just the physicality of him in general. There is a little bit of and ahhing how I feel about that beard. You know, it's just too facial for me to be on a robot, but I do get it. It's obviously somewhat modeled after John Goodman himself, the voice actor for Hound, who you might best know as Sully from Monsters Inc. I do like his vehicle mode, even though in the last night they made an unnecessary change to his design, making him a medic. Even though we don't see him do any medic work at all in the entire film, but then again, there's a lot of film that film promised and it just never went through with anything. But yeah, this is bizarre, because in the trailers we saw him with the British Cross on his head, but of course due to copyright issues, they couldn't do that, and I'm surprised that no one decided to fact check that, you know, because the British Cross is famously always copyrighted, and for this they just made it blue. He's a war bot, he's hungry for war and fighting, and he's not really the first person to save a life, he's the first person to end a life, so yeah. I gotta say, I'm gonna knock down the last night design on that because the British Cross on him just looks absolutely goofy and stupid.
Come and get some, you little bitch!
While he didn't appear in the Transformers Rise of the Darkspot video game, which is a shame because I would have loved to have played as Hound in that game, he was in Forged to Fight, which, you know, we got this design pretty spot on. I actually really do like it. It translates really well, and once again, it goes right next to the Age of Extinction Hound. Now, this Hound also got a Constructor Bots, which is, oh god, it's just too disturbing to live, but then at the same time, he's gonna die. He's gonna die. Like, honestly, this dude looks... Now we got a tiny turbo changer as well, which he just looks so goofy. He looks like a gremlin. He looks like such a gremlin as a tiny turbo.
You sure you don't want to shoot? I'm a big old target. Wusses.
He also got some Creo designs, and the basic ones are fine. He even got a beard, but the rest of them are just, they're disgusting. Slap them on any character and they all look terrible. Now let's talk about the War for Cybertron Netflix Siege Hound. And I gotta say, I really do like this design. I actually wanted this figure. This was before we were going to be getting the buzzworthy Bumblebee. I was actually considering just getting this instead of that because we were just waiting so long for that buzzworthy. I was just going to get the Siege Hound. Because I really do like it. It's a good modern revision of Generation 1 Hound. Now this design also made its way through the 2019 IDW continuity, where we got somewhat of an upgrade with a bunch of missiles on his back. Looks really cool there, but that's pretty much all it is, really. Moving on to video games, we have the Fall of Cybertron Hound, which was part of DLC. He didn't have a role in the game itself, but you could play as him in multiplayer. You could also play as him as a character in the Rise of the Darkspark escalation mode. I really do like this design. Arguably not my favourite Fall of Cybertron design, but I do like that they brought this character into the game. I think it really works. I really like playing as him in the multiplayer. I liked using his body parts and sort of customizing it with my own characters. But yeah, I don't think it's like the definitive version of Hound for me. Now, one of my favourite designs of all time is Hound in the Transformers Universe MMO game. This is concept art. Unfortunately, this game notoriously got cancelled. Such a shame. This is one of the best designs that they came up with. I really do like this. To think of a Transformers Prime version of Hound, this is it. And I really do like how he got an upgrade as well. This to me is just perfect. I really do like it because the shoulders and the body, it all kind of fits together. It doesn't feel so out of place, and I really do like the sort of Gatling gun that he's got on his shoulders there, combined with the two wheels together on his shoulders. It's just so cool. It's such a shame we never got to see this fully realized, and this is without a doubt one of my favorite Hound designs of all time. Now we have another cancelled design from the Transformers Heavy Metal game, and this looks just so cool. I really do like this. It takes the physicality of the movie Hound, bulks him up, and he looks really cool. Which is very similar to the Evergreen design, which is the last Hound on this list. If you want to imagine how Hound would have looked like in Cyberverse, this is how he would have looked. It's a shame he never actually appeared in that show. I always expected him as well to appear in that, and he just never did. So it's been quite a while since we've had Hound in any sort of Transformers media, besides from the movies, and of course the Netflix Siege series. But yeah, no, this would have been really cool to see as both a toy, but yeah, it's just kind of like, it's still there, it still exists, so maybe this design will be fully realized in the future in either a toy or in media. And there we have it, guys. That's every Hound design ranked from worst to best. If I had to decide what was my all-time favorite Hound design, I gotta go with Transformers Prime, but I gotta say I have a lot of love for that Hearts of Steel and Evergreen design. Of course, let me know which is your favorite Hound design in the comment section below, and as I've mentioned before, I will be re-ranking and updating every Optimus Prime design from worst to best. But first, you're going to get a series of videos in August and September, leading up towards the release of Transformers 1, which I'll be revealing very soon. So, until then, I've been Comodin Cam, and until the next video, goodbye.